Hello everyone, I'm Bingja. Welcome back to another video. So in this video, we're gonna talk about sine rule and the cosine rule. All right, yeah, there is a rule about sine and cosine. All right, and just to check. Okay, great. So just to write down. Okay, in this video, we're gonna look for number one, the sine rule. All right, and number two, the cosine rule. All right. And then number three, we're gonna look at the area of a triangle. Yeah, the area of a triangle, but not the half base times height. It's the 1/2 AB sine C that I mentioned in the video where we talk about the area of the triangles. So yeah, let's move on. So from the previous video, we can use the let me make this bigger right here. And okay, I'm just gonna make a note here. So for right angle triangles, all right, right angled triangle, we can use the Cassottoa method. All right, so we can use Cassottoa to look for the hypotenuse, the adjacent, the opposite, and the angle of any side, and then we can look for the area by using half base times height. Okay, but if we are looking at non-right angled triangle. All right, so what do you mean not right angled triangle? So it can be any like an equilateral triangle, isosceles triangle, or even a scalene triangle where you can't divide it into two right angled triangle in any form. All right, then we cannot use the Cassottoa method as mentioned before. We need to use the sine rule and the cosine rule. All right, to look for the length the area, the angles, and so on. All right, so we are going to move on to what is a sine rule. Okay, so if I am to draw a triangle right here, okay, number one, we're going to talk about the sine rule. Okay, if I'm gonna draw a triangle like this, okay, obviously it's not a right angle triangle. I'm gonna name the length A, B, and C. Okay, so when the lengths are A, B, and C, I will name their opposite angle. All right, this to be big A, this to be big C, and this to be big B. Okay, so as you can see from this triangle here, the big A angle is facing the opposite as the A unit length of the side of the triangle. Okay, so what is the sine rule? The sine rule is defined as, okay, the sine rule is defined as, let's move down, sine A divided by A will be equals to sine B divided by B equals to sine C divided by C. All right, so you might see there are two equal sign, and that means that you need any two can be used. All right, so let's say you are given the big B and the small b and the small a, and you're looking for the angle of A. Then you can use this formula, sine A over A equals to sine B over B. All right, to look for the angle. So we can look at an example right here. If I'm going to randomly assign a value, all right, so let's say this is a triangle right here, all right, e.g. number 1. Okay, and this is 3 and this is 2. So let's say this is going to be say 25 degrees, and I'm going to look for this x right here. So by using the sine rule, okay, so we have sine 25 degrees divided by 2, okay, is equals to sine x divided by 3. All right, so from here we can get sine x is equals to 3 sine 25 degrees divided by 2, okay, which is equals to sine 25, all right, if you type it inside your calculator, multiply with 3 divided by 2, then you get something called the 0.63393. Okay, and then x will be equals to, all right, shift sign, you get the inverse sign, you type in the 0.63393, all right, and you press the equals, you will get 39.3 degrees, all right, which means this x right here is 39.3 degrees, all right. So this is how you use the sine rule, okay. And now we are going to move on to the cosine rule, all right. So it's actually just that simple. You just need to remember sine angle over the length, all right, and it's the opposite angle to the side of the triangle. Okay, number 2, we have the cosine rule. So the cosine rule is stated as c square is equals to a square plus b square, all right, this is the normal Pythagoras theorem, right, minus 2ab cos C. All right, this C is the big C angle. All right, so as you can see here, this is the triangle we are talking about. All right. Okay, so this C must be the longest part, which is this part right here. So this is C, and this is A, and this is B. All right, so this C, okay, C must be hypotenuse. All right, so the C must be the longest one. All right, then it will be equals to a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos C. A and B can be any. All right, and this right here will be the angle C. All right, so for the cosine rule, as you can see, you need this value, and this value. So it forms like a this part needed, this part needed, and this part needed, and like a, you know, this two-sided triangle here to find this length C. Okay, so this is basically it. You just need to sub in the value. All right, so when this is a right angle triangle, all right, when C is equals to 90 degrees because it's a right angle, all right, and from the previous video we know that cos 90 is equals to 0. Therefore, this whole term right here will give you 0. You will be left with c squared is equals to a squared plus b squared. And this is the Pythagoras theorem. All right, and you are pretty familiar with this Pythagoras theorem. All right, so yeah, this is how you look for a cosine rule. All right, so I'm just going to give like a little example here. E.g. number 2. E.g. 2. All right, so I'm gonna draw a little triangle like this. All right, and I want to look for C, and let's say this is 110 degrees. All right, and this thing right here, say it's 4 and 5. All right, so we are gonna look for this length right here. So by using the cosine rule, this c squared is equals to a squared plus b squared, okay, minus 2ab cos C. All right, so you can press the calculator, and this will give you something like a 16 plus 25, 41, minus 40 cos 110. All right, and if you press your calculator, so cos 110, all right, cos 110 will give you a negative number because from cos 90 to cos 270, it's a negative number, all right? So you will get 41 minus 40 multiplied with negative 0.34202, All right, it's better to include more significant figures during your working so that you can get a more accurate answer. All right, so 40 times 0.34202 plus 41, and you will get the answer is 54.6808. And if you leave this answer as your last answer for C, then congratulations, you are wrong, because you need to remember this formula is equals to C squared. So you need to remember to bring the square root over 54.6808. So if you are to square root this, you will get the answer 7.39. All right, to three significant figures. All right, so 7.39 is the answer that you will get for your C, and it actually makes sense because the hypotenuse must be the longest length among the two as compared to the other two lengths of the triangle. So you have 4, you have 5, and this is 7 point something. So it actually makes sense, and this is a sense check that you might want to do every single time when you are doing math. All right, so just to have a little bit of a conclusion about the sine and cosine rule. Okay, so the question is when to use. All right, so when to use sine and cosine rule. So number one, when you can't use ka so twa. All right, which in this case, when the triangle is not right angle. All right, so when the triangle is not right angled, you don't need to waste your time looking for a way to make it right angled. You can just use the sine and cosine rule. All right, so when to use when to use sine and cosine rule. Okay, number one, when you can't use ka so twa. And number two, if you have two pairs of opposite angles and length. All right, then you will be using the sine rule. All right, what do I mean by two pairs of opposite angle and length? All right, so this is the case. All right, when you have this and this and this and this. All right, so you have two pairs. Okay, so this is the first pair and this is the second pair. So if you have two pairs, then you can use the sine rule. And given that you must have at least three information given, then you can use the sine rule. All right, and when do you use the cosine rule? And you can say if you can't use the sine rule, and you have if you have two lengths, all right, and an angle in between the two lengths. All right, so if you have two lengths given and an angle in between, then you can look for the longest length. All right, so the you will be using cosine. All right, and if I'm to draw a triangle like this, okay, and this is x, this is y, and this is the angle, and this is the c that we want to look for. All right, I'm gonna change it to AB. A and B. All right, so it might not be C. All right, you can get A squared is equals to C squared minus B squared minus plus 2AB cos C. All right, you can always rearrange the formula, right? A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cos C. Yeah, you can always rearrange the formula if you are gonna look for A. All right, or if you're gonna look for the angle, then you can make everything to the left hand side or the right hand side, and then you can make C the subject. All right, let's say it's C is equals to inverse cos, all right, a square plus b square minus c square, the whole thing over 2ab, right? So it's actually pretty easy. 2ab cos c, just to double check, c squared, yeah. So you can just rearrange the formula like that to always look for the unknown that you need to look for. All right, just a little bit to double confirm. A squared plus b squared. Okay, yeah, that's correct. So this is when you're going to use the sine rule and the cosine rule, and when you can't use the quart and what you will have to do if you can't use the quart. All right, so we are done with the first agenda, and let's move on to the second one, which is the area of a triangle. All right, so you can always look for area of triangle using, okay, you can always look for the area of triangle. You can look for the area of triangle using 1 over 2 base times height. All right. If not, there is another formula called 1 over 2 AB sine C. All right. How does this 1 over 2 AB sine C come from? Okay. So this, the same thing as the previous one. This is C and this is A and B. All right. So you can calculate any value. All right. So if it's 1 over 2 AB sine C means like this, or in this case, if you are given this little c right here, and this is big B, you can calculate the area is equals to 1 over 2 AC sine B. It yields the same, all right? So I don't think I'm going to depth on go into depth on how do you get this formula, but this is one formula for you to remember, 1 over 2 AB sine C. It's very simple. It's just all the information needed is uh length, length, and angle. All right, if you have this, then you can find the area of a triangle very easily, all right, by just subbing in into the formula, right? So yeah, this marks the end of the video and the end of chapter 6. And I think this is all the triggers that you need to know for IGCSE Maths. And if I found out that I missed out anything, I will add in another video later on. Yeah, so just to recap, we learned the sine rule, the cosine rule, and the conditions that you can use them. If not, then you will want to actually use quart whenever you can, because it's really easy. And third thing, I have introduced to you another formula for the area of triangle rather than half base times height. Alright, so yeah, hope you guys understand this video, and I'll see you guys next time in chapter 7, where we're gonna learn about vectors. See you!